People say the stand-up is nerve-wracking. Like, I have people come up to me, they're like, you got to be brave doing stand-up. But then I feel like walking into an octagon.
Yeah.
Don't reckon? Like, I don't think stand-up is brave. I think like walking into an octagon, like if I was in a UFC event, like I think it'd just be multiple panic attacks. Like, how do you not? Are you just used to it?
It's funny. I've thought about it a bit, and I think it's essentially this, like the fear that you get. I think that the fear that fighters get and the fear that comedians would have is essentially the same. It's the fear of like humiliation, right? Of failure. So like, for the most part, none of us, even if you ask people who are just having their first or second fight, once you've trained for a bit, the fear of actually being physically hurt isn't the biggest thing. It's the fear of that failure and like being humiliated. And because it's so public and it's so, the onus is just on you, right? Like in team sports, you can hide behind a team. So if your team's losing, it's like, yeah, I'm losing, but we're all losers. Like,
yeah.
So it sucks. Whereas if I go out and there's another man and he beats me, it's like that he is better than me or he was better than me tonight. And you've just got to fully own that. And that is a lot of responsibility and a lot of weight for people to carry, which I think is probably the same in comedy, right? Because if you go out there and you bomb, it's like, fuck, like I bombed, like that sucked. And you might have like homies that have come to watch even or anything. And that's like what we get. When I lost the first fight I lost, I just felt like I'd let everyone around me down.
Okay.
I was like, I remember, and all these people are coming up to me and they're being nice, like, oh, you'll be back, you'll get the next one. And I'm like, fuck, I don't deserve these people. Like, you feel like you don't deserve their admiration. You don't deserve their support. You kind of beat yourself up over it. But I think that's just part of maturing a little bit through fighting. You realize that, you know, people, if they would just drop off and not support, then you probably don't need them around anyway.
So then how does it start? Like how, because like you grew up Bacchus Marsh, right? So I grew up in Geelong, so it's kind of like regional centres.
Yep.
But like how does that, like at my school there was no, like there are people who would get into fights at school, but no one's like, you should monetize this.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like how does it become where I'm going to pursue martial arts?
Yeah.
Especially from Bacchus Marsh, because you're at the, it's a good place, but you're at the back of nowhere.
Yeah, so Bacchus Marsh actually has
A gym.
like a really, like we have a lot of guys who have come out of Bacchus Marsh and been like really successful fighters at different levels, obviously.
So you have a role model there.
Yeah, so like my older brother was a fighter. That's how I got into it. He was really good. But then we had a guy named Ziggy who was quite a, you know, influential figure in the local community, and he ran a kickboxing gym out the back of his business, which was a tyre shop. So a lot of young
tyre shop?
Yeah, tyre shop, Everlast Tyre Service. And a lot of young guys, be it, there's two kind of ways you would get into it. Either you were playing footy and in the off season you'd go to Ziggy to get fitness and with kickboxing up there, or if you were more like you wanted to learn the skill, you'd go up there and learn from Ziggy. And so many like young men went up there and had their lives enriched by the experience. We had there was a guy who trained there named Steve Moxon who went on to be like a world champion in kickboxing. Lots of like state and national title holders like Ricky Leonard and Justin Delure and other guys like that. And then I went there and I was training at sort of like 12 or 13, but I always knew that I wanted to do MMA because I'd watched UFC. So once I turned 16, I had to move to a gym in Melton, which was offering jiu-jitsu, and started learning the ground game and wrestling and all that sort of thing along with it. But yeah, there's actually like a lot of guys from that area who are quite good at fighting. And there's another kid, he's not from Bacchus Marsh, but the same shire, a little bit further out, Balan, a young kid who probably will be maybe the next guy in the UFC from Victoria.
Damn, so it's becoming a spot.
Yeah, it's definitely a hotspot for talent.
It's like for marathons, they've got the Rift Valley in Kenya, and it's like 29 gold medalists have come from that place and won the marathon of the Olympics.
I don't know if we can claim that kind of level.
March.
Yeah, but it would be good if we did. You know, I hope. You know, I love one day to. I don't know whether I want to full time be a coach. It's a really like some people are built to be good coaches and some people are more built just to fight. And I don't know if I want to be a coach, but I'd love to give back in some way and be able to, you know, help young guys who want to fight be able to do it.
Growing up around violence, because it's interesting that violence is like an undercurrent to everything in a way. Like even when you're on stand up, if there's a heckler and they're yelling at you, there's an undercurrent that this could turn physical.
Yeah, there's always, most male interactions, there's always the threat of this could turn to a physical fight.
And if you kicked my ass on podcast,
yeah, if you bash me on screen. It's funny. Do
you think that though? Like growing up around fighting, do you notice that in other interactions between two males where it's like, oh, there's an undercurrent of
I'm decent. Well, yeah, you're desensitized to it a little bit. Because like in the gym or anything, if there is that, like you sort it out every day. So every day I'm competing with my teammates. And you find out who's on top. You find out where you sit in the hierarchy. Am I the top guy? Am I the second guy? Am I the bottom of the heap? And I've been at different points in my career from the very bottom of the heap, the guy who never wins a round, to being in the middle where maybe you win half your rounds and lose half your rounds, to, you know, being the top guy and the best guy in the gym and you win pretty much all your rounds. And then week by week that changes. So if I'm having a good week, I'll be the top guy, and then if I'm having an average week, I'll sort of fluctuate through that. So I don't notice it outside of that very much. I think also there's an element of you just assume that most people who I'm come across I would beat up. So there's that in it too.
Like the Will Smith Chris Rock thing, I reckon was like a good example of that. Where it's like if you make jokes about someone or if you say something kind of out of hand or out of pocket, there is a chance of physical violence.
Yeah.
You know, like even after that Chris Rock thing happened, there was like 4 incidents around Australia where people jumped on stage and tried to punch him with a comedian.
Really?
Yeah, like it's almost like
anyone
that.
I would know? Comedians?
Well, it happened to me in Perth.
Really? Yeah. Was it heckling and he went at you?
Dude, a drunk docker, like a fucking drunk like dude who works on the docks.
Right.
And like they didn't have security. This is the lounge in Perth, huge venue.
Yeah.
So there's like 450 people and they pack it out in Perth and then they have another one in Freo. And there's a dude in the front row. He was like heckling every act. And the first 2 acts got like fucked up by him. And so I went on, just made jokes about him. And then he got real quiet. And then he just stood up. There's a great photo of him, like his bald head, like he's got the fat on the back of his neck. And he's coming up towards me and I'm like this. And then another bigger guy swooped in and they were just like kind of wrestling on the stage.
Oh, he came in to like back you up.
Yeah. And I was just kind of watching it. I was weirdly calm. I think I just accepted it.
Yeah, right.
I'm like, am I going to get fucked up?
If he had to come in your space, would you have swung, you reckon? Or would you
Nah,
have...
because I don't know how to fight.
Okay, fair
The
enough.
only fights I have is like having like 2 brothers and like maybe like a few things in high school, just being in like a public school in Geelong. But apart from that, I'm not, you know?
Yeah.
But you feel like if someone came at you, you know what to do straight away.
Oh, 100%.
I feel like I need that.
Yeah.
Just as a precaution.
I think being acutely aware of fighting makes you want to avoid it at all costs, because you know how dangerous it is. Like if you, from both ends, like if I hit a guy, he falls and hits his head.
You're in jail for
like, well, depending. If I'm defending myself, like people always say, oh, you're a fighter, like you're a lethal weapon, so you're not allowed to fight because if you hit someone, and that's complete bullshit. Like it just, that's anyone who thinks that, it's absolutely not true.
I remember people saying that in high school. They're like, yeah, your fists are like legal weapons.
Yeah, you're trained, so it's a lethal weapon. So, and it's like, no, I have the same rights as everyone else to defend myself.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've been in like maybe 3 or 4 actual fights outside of the cage in my whole life.
Since you've been a UFC fighter?
Oh, not since I've been a UFC fighter. I haven't been in one.
Okay, that's good.
No, you just avoid that at all costs. If you can't talk your way out of it or get out of it, then you know you got to go. You got to go.
Yeah.
And I got no problem going if you have to. But for the most part, like I'm pretty relaxed and calm outside of the gym, and it's like I spend all week fighting. Why do I want to? If I've got a bit of time off on the weekend, I don't want to fucking fight some random.
But would you have dudes? Because it's kind of like a little target on you, where someone's like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna punch him with a UFC fighter."
It's funny actually. It's not that. What I've found is that guys will, like if there's a group of guys, or like if I'm out, particularly in a setting where I'm like with my friends and stuff as well. People will try and belittle or do something to make, like, to big dog themselves. Like they'll try and big dog me, to then make themselves be like to their friends, oh, you see what I did to Jack or whatever like that. That's the most common one. No one's ever like, oh, I'll fight you, or like, or do you want to fight or anything? That just doesn't happen. But they'll say smart ass comments and stuff that put you in a position where I'm like, well, now I've got to either go back at them, or this is going to, or walk away. Like it'll either escalate or I'll walk away. And they put me in the position where I do that. And 9 times out of 10, they know I'm just going to walk away because I'm not going to fucking escalate and have a fight. But I found that actually happens quite frequently.
Yeah, because imagine that happened with like footy players. It doesn't happen with comedians at all.
Yeah, well, like footy players, like a footy player would be out and somebody would be a hero to their mates and be like, oh, you should have fucking kicked that goal or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the footy player's in a position where he turns around to you and goes, fuck off, cunt. Like,
yeah,
that sort of thing. Or just turns around and turns back to his mates and just cops it. And then that bloke thinks he's a hero to his mates.
Yeah.
And really, he's just being a fuckhead. Like, you get shit like that. I had a guy come up to me only like 3 weeks ago. And it started like a normal conversation. Like, he shook my hand. He goes, hey, you who I think you are? And I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm Jack, mate. And he goes, hey, you better fucking win in Perth. I bet on you last time. And when I lost, obviously. I bet on you last time. And he was like around his mates. And I was like, sweet, mate. What do you want me to say to that? Like, fuck, you better fucking win. I bet on you last time. There's just nothing I can even say. So I just said, sweet, mate, and walked off.
Yeah, the only thing that happens with like people yelling out at comedians is if their girlfriend is laughing, 90% of the time the dude will like yell out.
Really?
Yeah, like if their girlfriend's like really laughing that you're killing, you can see him getting angry.
Really?
Yeah, especially in gigs like regional gigs or like in Perth for some reason.
That's fucked up.
Yeah.
Imagine the kind of headspace you have to be in to be like, you know what, I'm going to take my girl out to a comedy show. And then your reaction is anger when she has a good time.
Yeah.
It's like taking her to
It can't be a healthy relationship.
It's like taking her to a restaurant and she's like, this food is so good. I love this food. And then you're like, fuck, I'm going to fuck the chef
I'm going to king it the chef. Yeah, bring him out here.
The chef's fucked. He's making my girlfriend too happy.
It'd be kind of wild way to live your life. Just in every interaction, you're
Mate,
like, if my girlfriend is happy.
You have to be some kind of insecure to be upset for a comedian making your girlfriend laugh. I've never seen that. That's fucking funny though.
I reckon it's fun as well in the UFC and that you guys have free reign to talk shit. Like recently in the AFL, there's been a few players.
Tom Green?
That's crazy.
The AFL is a vanilla corporate juggernaut that strips the players of their ability to make a character of themselves and to be, you know, show any personality, because anything that puts that brand at risk is, you know, they can't let that happen. And it's a real shame because it's, you know, Tom Green, he's like one of the most respected players in the AFL. He's like, and he can't come out and say like, I think this is bad. I don't like what's happening here or anything like that. Just a joke. I'm big against like the establishment in that sense, like especially the AFL.
Makes it so boring.
It's so boring. You always say this, but a player's getting interviewed at halftime, coming off after the match. You can just write on a piece of paper, here's what they're going to say. Oh, yeah, you know, the boys, we got to pick up, you know, blah, blah, blah. And it's just, there'll be nothing in it outside of the ordinary. And they all get media trained to do that, to just give these blank answers that leave no room for personality or character or anything that would endear people towards them.
And they sound like AI. People like, they have no personalities because they kind of are.
Yeah.
Because like they're getting notes on what to say.
Yeah.
It's ChatGPT.
And then you meet them and you're like,
they're fun.
These dudes are fun. Like, he's a cool dude. But your impression of them that you get from the TV is just exactly what the AFL wants you to see. Yeah, you know, the AFL's got to protect their image in a sense, but you got to let people be themselves as well.
They make more money though. Like people want to watch Ginnivan.
Love Guinea.
Like people want to watch him.
Like imagine if a forward came out and said like, they better not line Fergus up on me, because if Fergus lines up on me, I'm going to kick 6. Like, it's going to be a bad day to be a Carlton fan, whatever.
The ratings go up.
It's like everyone's watching that game, but they just can't do it because they risk, you know, oh, we don't want him doing that. We don't, like, you sanction a player because he said that. What did he even say? That the umpiring had been average? Or
I think he talked about the tribunal.
Yeah, it's changing the fabric of the game, he said.
It's a fair point.
It's a massively fair point. But the fact that you can't speak up against them is crazy. Whereas we have, like, in the UFC, you have the guys who come out and they're like, what did the guy say in Perth? He was like, he came out after his fight and he beat an Aussie guy and the crowd were like booing him and he was like, shut up, you fucking and it was like,
You're getting cancelled in any sport.
Anything. And they're
If
just
someone's
like,
in the AFL, they might get banned.
yeah. And then he came out afterwards and he's like, I didn't mean it. I'm sorry. And it was just like swept under the rug. Like, fuck, you can say
Why
what
does
you
it
want.
happen? Why in the UFC is it free reign, but in other codes it's not?
Because if we don't have personalities, then people are far less interested. I tell people this all the time. You can have the best skill-wise matchup you could possibly have. Like as a pure spectator sport, you can have the best fight you can ever see. But if both guys are boring and don't talk much, you'll only get the real purists, like the people who absolutely love it watching. But the beautiful thing about fighting is that if there's any kind of thing that makes you buy in and make it relevant to you, like, oh, you like the way the guy talks, or you don't like the way the guy talks and you want to see him get beat, everyone will watch because it's such a pinnacle of what we do. It's like Jake Paul's an example. Nobody's watching Jake Paul to be like, I love this guy's boxing.
Yeah.
Like, he's such a clean technical boxer. He's one of the best in the world. Nobody thinks that, but you're happy to watch him.
They want to see the show.
Yeah, they want to see the show. They want to see either him win or him get beat up. And that's why they can't muzzle you as fighters, because if they take away your ability to be a personality, then they take away their own ability to make money. And there's no better example of that than Conor McGregor. Like he's the best to ever do it because he spoke so well and he got everyone who watched either wanted to see him get killed, or they wanted to see him kill the other guy. And so people all over the world, like I have family who I was already fighting and they could not care less. They wouldn't even know what the UFC was.
Okay.
And then Conor comes along and then it's like they have context. They're like, oh, so you do what Conor McGregor does. You want to get to where he is, that sort of thing.
So do you feel pressure to, like, at press conferences, show some, like, I don't know, say some crazy shit? Or do you?
Nah, not so much. I think it's important. A lot of guys after McGregor took that stance of like, all right, I'm going to say crazy shit. I'm going to be the crazy guy. I'm going to be whatever. Even probably when I was younger, to an extent, I like maybe tried to emulate that a little bit. But one thing that's like true no matter what is that your real personality will always come out.
Yeah.
And people can always spot a fake. They can always spot it if you're forcing it. And the last thing you want is to be like the fake guy. So what I try and tell people is like, you could have a dinner with me one night and I can sit there and be quite boring and vanilla, or you might have a dinner with me another night and like I'll say funny shit, I'll be exciting. So I just try and show the parts of my personality that I think are the most endearing to the fans and the fan base and that sort of thing. And if they like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. But I'm not going to try and be something I'm not just to sell fights. Just going to try and sell the best parts of me.
Do they ever tell you what to do? Like, have you ever had like Dana White like whisper in your ear, like do this, or some executive? No one ever says anything.
Never.
They're just like, you're free.
The beauty of the UFC is they are like, you do you. You do you. Apart from the fact, like, I hate that the UFC, we can't wear any brands or anything that aren't in the UFC. So they essentially cut our legs out from underneath us in our ability to market ourselves because, they have crypto.com. Like crypto.com, it's the worst deal ever. Like fighters get zero money from it. And I think it was like $100 million over 7 years or something. And it trickles down essentially nothing to the fighters. Whereas if I was allowed to put my own companies and brands and people's companies on a shirt when I walked out, like I would make life-changing money tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like I would make money that would be legitimately like change me from just being like an average guy to I could be quite wealthy.
Yes.
And that's been completely cut out from underneath fighters.
Why do they do that?
Because again, it's controlling their brand for the UFC is a monopoly essentially, so they can do what they want. So if I have a deal, let's say McDonald's, if McDonald's want to sponsor me and I say, hey, I'll wear your shirt for my fight, pay me $200,000. And they're like, sweet. The UFC gets nothing from that. So they make no money. They're not doing well. Whereas the UFC says, you know what? We've already got the fighters under contract. We provide the venue. We provide all of this. You guys are all going to walk out in our uniform. And everyone goes, okay, no worries. And then they slap crypto.com on it or whatever they want to slap on it. And they sell the right to company and go, hey, you don't get one fighter, you get every fighter, every event for the next 5 years. And company goes, sweet, I'll pay $100 million for that. That sounds like a great deal. And then the UFC pockets all that money and the fighters get none of it.
Damn. And you guys are the ones getting kicked in the head.
Yeah, exactly. But in saying that too, I understand the economical side of it too, because I sell the UFC as part of my brand as well. So I do some deals and stuff, and I could have the exact same skill set I have now and the exact same fight record and everything. But if I was fighting in PFL or Bellator or one of those lower promotions, I wouldn't get any of the other stuff that I get. I wouldn't get any of the side deals and stuff. So when
you landed in the UFC, did you feel a change to your life? Like,
of course.
It was actually felt life changing.
Of course, 100%.
Damn, it's probably similar to being drafted in the NBA.
Yeah, 100%. It's the same principle in the sense that you could, like, you obviously know a little bit about the sport, but pretty much everyone you speak to, if you say UFC, they know what you're talking about. Whereas if you introduce me on your podcast and you're like, oh, Jack's a PFL fighter, everyone will be like, what the fuck's that? Like that means nothing to us. And it's the same with businesses. When you're making yourself a commodity, being a UFC fighter and being able to leverage the brand of the UFC for yourself helps a lot. But yeah, I just wish I could walk out with like a company on my shirt. It's like every time I put this crypto.com shirt on,
would it be like $500,000, like $100,000? What could I'd 50 grand a fight?
Let's say if Dana White called me tomorrow and said, "Hey Jack, you
can get sponsors.
You can get one sponsor."
Yeah,
it would be like I could have probably a 6-figure deal done tomorrow. Yeah, and which is more money than I make for the fight.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So there was guys, when they brought this stuff in, there were guys who blatantly said, I refuse to fight.
Because they lost.
Because there was guys like Randy Couture, who was a big name to be fair, but this was a long time ago when the UFC was a lot lower. He was, every fight when he walked out in his own shirt, before he'd even stepped in the cage, it was about 350 grand US was what he had in sponsorship deals. And in one sign of the pen, they took that away from him completely. And it's hard for me. We've got to be way more creative now in how we can add value for businesses. Because back in the day, you were essentially just selling this advertising space on the shirt or your shorts, and then you would partner things into the deal with like, oh, and then I'll come do these appearances or do this. Whereas now, like I had a guy not long ago, I was with some, fairly wealthy guys who were, good businessmen. And one of them just said to me straight up, he goes, how much does it cost me to get on your shirt? I want to sponsor you.
Damn.
And like you're in a position and you're like, fuck, I could make a deal here. I could do this, but I'm like, I'm not allowed to have anyone on my shirt. So then you have to talk to the company and try and find a way where you can add some value for them.
Yeah.
Because I can't represent you when I fight. And it's like,
it becomes influencer-esque. You got to be like, what can I bring to your company through my brand name?
That's exactly right. Like I have to be creative and be able to give them, time on social media or whatever, which I don't mind doing, and I actually like doing some of the stuff, videos and producing a little bit of content. But it would be great if I could just go, yeah, here, let's write a check. We'll get you on the shirt for sure.
What's happening to the dudes at the bottom of the barrel? Like you hear about local fights where there's just like two dudes in a warehouse. They might have been on Married at First Sight.
Yep.
And they're punching on. Like, what are those things? Like, I always see those advertised.
So, like, there's maths guys. Those guys probably get paid, like, decent because they'll get people through the door.
Because someone wants to see, like, a maths guy get...
Exactly. Somebody wants to see a maths guy get hit.
Damn, the show is so important to it.
Yeah.
When you think about it, like, the show, it's a show.
It's more than anything, that. Because it's like... Yeah, like Elon Musk versus Mark Zuckerberg when they were talking about that, right? Like, as a fight, like for the skill of fighting, that would be as bad as it gets. It would be like, would you want to watch Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk play a tennis match against each other? Like, would you pay for that?
Yeah.
Fuck no. That's not interesting at all because the skill level's shit.
Yeah.
But a fight, there's something different about it. Like, even though the skill level's shit, one of them could get beat up and you'd love to see that.
It's like how I'm friends with Friendly Geordies. He's friends with Spanion.
Yeah.
And when I went on his podcast, I'm like, let's do like would you do a fight with Spanion? And he's like, I'm like, dude, he would get fucking like destroyed.
Yeah, well, I think Spanion trains with like Peter Graham. Like,
he's proper?
Yeah. I think
Better make some phone calls.
I think he's been training.
But I'm
Yeah.
like, even if he lasts like a minute and you just like dodge him, or we get like you to train him or something, you can make so much money from that fight.
Yeah.
Because people want to watch that.
For sure. What's the go, Friendly Geordie? Is he still getting firebombed or
No,
what?
he's free now. He's a free man.
Free man?
But when I went to his house, and because I was in a Sydney show, and I went to his house before to record I should probably be saying this, but I'm like, you got to up the security.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, if I was you, I'd have like a dude at the door.
Yeah.
He's a wealthy dude as well. I'm like, I would have dudes at the door strapped.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to look after
But no,
yourself.
he's chill. He's honestly like Zen-like. I think once you get close to dying, this is what he told me as well, you're kind of a bit more like,
Yeah.
no, he's like, he just feels more, he's calm now.
Yeah.
It's weird. You know,
for sure.
maybe it happens to you as well because you're fighting. It's like everything else is dialed down.
Exactly. No, I tell people this all the time. The regular stresses of life become a lot easier to deal with. Not that I'm mitigating people who have regular stress. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying things that maybe in the past might have really rattled me.
Yeah.
And I would have gone, and worked me up. Now they just seem so mellow and easy to deal with, because you think about it, when you're doing a 10-week camp and you're having to train, 25 hours a week while not eating much, while knowing that there's a guy on the other side of the world training his ass off to come and hurt you. And then you've got to walk out in front of millions of people that are going to be watching online and do that. The pressure that's involved in that, you just, when you can deal with that, other little stuff, like somebody getting in a little argument somewhere or somebody cutting in front of you, the other stuff just doesn't really matter as much. So yeah, I probably relate to that a little bit, that it doesn't, not much would bother me in that sense.
Like a regular citizen's, civilian's perspective, what's the most painful thing you've experienced in a ring?
My last fight, so
Octagon.
usually,
What do you call it? Ring, octagon?
either or.
Anything?
I usually don't really feel pain in a fight. And
because you're in the adrenaline
yeah,
space.
Yeah, the adrenaline, and you're so focused on your task. Like even in sparring, I never go into a sparring session nervous because I feel like I'm going to be hurt. Like I feel pain. You get nerves and you get anxious to perform well. And it's the same in a fight. But in my last fight, when I dislocated my elbow, that was genuine pain. And it was the worst pain I've ever felt in anything, let alone fighting. But that's the only time I've ever felt pain. Why
didn't you feel pain?
I don't know. I think it's partially, like you said, adrenaline, but partially just because you're in the zone and your body kind of takes over. Like it knows what's happening. Like if you came up to me just randomly and just hit me in the nose, I'd be like, fuck, that hurt. But for some reason in a fight, you get hit in the nose and it's just like, oh, well, carry on.
Yeah, you don't have like the collie ear or anything like.
I've got little collies. I've got collies on the inside of both. But yeah, I'm pretty lucky. I've made a career off not getting hit much.
Yeah,
which I'm really proud of, and I try and, when young guys ask me stuff, I try and encourage them to work as much as they can on their defense. Everyone wants to work on I want to slip and hit the cross like McGregor, or I want to land the kick like Sean O'Malley. I want to do this stuff, and that's all well and good, and you have to have that. But if you can be really defensively sound and you can make sure that you don't get hit a lot in fights, you don't take much damage, then you're going to not take much damage in sparring as well. And then over the life of your career, you're going to take so many less shots.
Yeah.
Like if you think a 10-year career and you spar once a week, if you can save yourself 10 hits a night just by being a little bit better defensively, over 10 years, that's a lot of head knocks that you're actually helping yourself out. And I want to have a life and a career after fighting. So I'm not interested in, giving all of my brain cells to the sport.
Does that come up in your mind where you're thinking?
Yeah, for sure. But
footy players have that as well, though. I guess,
but like again in the AFL, it's like, hang on, guys, you're getting paid 600, 700 grand a year, and they're like, protect the head. It's like at a certain point, there is an onus on you to go, if I don't want to get hit in the head at all, I won't do this sport. I'll go get a job as an office clerk, at 80 grand a year.
Yeah.
I'll give up the lifestyle that I live to do that. I really don't understand. I get the AFL scared of the lawsuit, but there's bricklayers whose bodies and backs are completely fucked by the time they're 45. And they're not earning anything near what the AFL guys are earning. I just think as athletes, you're not normal. Like you don't have the normal workplace safety, the warmer workplace stuff. I think if you get drafted into the AFL and they go, it should come with a slip that goes here. You sign away your right to sue us because this is a concussion. You know, there's a risk of concussion.
Yeah.
I get mitigated as much as you can. But if we just make it a non-contact sport, it's not what it was. It's like, imagine if the UFC said, all right, no more headshots.
Yeah.
No more punching in the head. You'd be like, well, fuck, this makes no sense. No one's going to watch this.
Yeah.
The onus is on me. I know if I'm not comfortable with the risk, I shouldn't do it.
Even I watched the 2016 Doggies Grand Final versus Sydney yesterday.
I'm a Sydney fan. I don't want to talk about it. Yeah.
But the knocks and the game is different.
Yeah.
And that was only in 2016.
Yeah.
So the game has substantially changed because people are trying to avoid knocks. There were dudes going back with a flight.
Yeah.
Even like Buddy came on, and that was when he like cracked his ankle. So they just shot him up with juice.
Yeah.
Strapped his ankle, and he was out there. That wouldn't happen now.
Yeah.
Because they'd be like, we'll get sued for, damaging a player.
Yeah.
Which of course you got to be careful, but there was definitely a more fun element to it being a little bit fast and loose.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I want players to be as safe as they can, but not at the expense of like, we have to change everything to stop. Like if the thing is no one ever gets concussed, you'll never get that.
Yeah.
Like that'll never be a thing. It's not a contact sport at that point.
And there were local players taking that risk, just playing for like a grand.
100%. Exactly. Playing for free, like in the resis. You play, and often in the resis, more likely to get lined up by someone because people don't care.
Yeah.
It's fucked. I just think like, again, it's the vanilla of the AFL. Like they're protecting their image above anything.
Something might change, I reckon.
Well, I think it's gonna have to come to a point where guys get drafted.
Yeah.
And you're getting drafted comes with an agreement that says, as part of the AFL, you accept the risks that your concussion. Because that's what I sign that before every fight.
Okay.
Before every fight, I get this thing that says, you understand that fighting is a dangerous sport and you're at risk of life-changing injury and or death. And it's and I just
got that'd throw me off.
Yeah, and I just sign away. I'm like, yeah, I know I could die doing this. I know I can get brain damage doing this, and you have to do it. So I don't understand why at a lower level, obviously we don't want footy players getting concussed and dying, but I don't understand why they aren't just given waivers that just go, I understand that I could get concussion.
I'm a professional athlete.
Yeah, I can get concussion from this, and I can have life-changing injuries. I suppose if they put that waiver down, everyone who came before who didn't get that waiver can probably come back and try and sue them. Hey. So that's
the thing with because I went to uni with Darcy Moore, so I know him okay, like I know him well, and his speaking is become famous. Like in the public, he's known as like a dude who can speak well. But behind the scenes, he says some really interesting shit that he wouldn't have confidence expressing in the public domain.
Is that right?
Like he would say stuff from if you said this on an AFL panel show, stuff about the AFL as well.
Yeah.
Like how to change it or how to make it more interesting, but they can't have any criticisms on the game, like how it's played on the tribunal, even on really media. So if Kane Corns bashes you can't really go back.
Yeah.
The club will be like, no, this is a PR disaster.
Exactly.
You're in the front of the Herald Sun for the next 4 weeks.
Stupid. If there's I've done it before, it's somebody in the media will write something about me or whatever, and I'll just message him.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
Well, for comedians, it's great. When I was in the Daily Mail, it was the best tickets. You know what I mean? I was selling. Exactly. Just fuck, all right, keep me in there. But footy players, they panic and they go, all right, we got to get out of here.
Yeah, well, they're not allowed to. They're, again, muzzled. They're just muzzled by the league, which is so sad.
How many weeks out are you from?
I'm 3 weeks tomorrow.
Damn.
Yeah. So right in the thick of it. And
you feel that on the way up here, you're saying you've been training the best you've ever trained.
Yeah, I think this week was the best week, consistent week of training I've ever had. And last night my sparring might have been the best I've ever sparred.
Damn.
Yeah, so I felt great. I had a longer lead in than I usually have. The idea is what you're trying to do with your training is how much volume can I get in at a high intensity that my body won't break down on me. Because at some point, mentally, I could just train, but I might get 3 weeks in and then the body goes, all right, now your shoulder's cooked, your knee's cooked, you're in trouble, and then you have to pull right off. So the goal for getting ready for a fight is I want to peak right before the fight so that I go into the fight with a full head of steam and I'm really fit and I'm good to go. And I think I've nailed that this time. Like I'm just about to peak and I'm 3 weeks out. So that's perfect.
What happens if you win? Is it life-changing?
This one? Nah.
Okay.
No, this is just a step in the rung.
Okay.
It was like be life-changing if I could put a fucking business on my shirt. I mean, but I can't. No, yeah. So it's not life-changing. No, it's good. It's decent enough money. Like it's if I'm comfortable enough, if I win, but
from
like
a career perspective though?
Career perspective, it's not life-changing
Okay.
either. So I've got another 4 fights on my current contract, so it's not make or break for that. Performances can be career-changing, right? Not necessarily a fight. So like I could go out there and win in one way and it's a good step in the right direction, happy to get the win. You know, you get the financial reward of winning as well.
Yeah.
Then I could go out and win like emphatically, and that changes your life in a day.
Yeah.
Right? You get one highlight reel knockout, life's completely
the TikToks
changed.
blow up.
Yeah. And that risk versus reward goes in the other way. Like in my last fight in Sydney, it was like same reward option, but the same risk option where I've had to have 12 months off because I was injured for so long. So it's both ways works with and against you.
I can't imagine. I reckon we're different. I can't imagine walking into an octagon with music playing in a stadium.
That's the best.
Does it how does it compare to regular life? Does it make regular life go, oh, this sucks? Or is it like, does it take any of the shine off?
Nah, not really. Like I'm a genuinely like pretty positive person.
Yeah,
and like I can find like I have a good time doing anything. Like I love horse racing. I love the footy. I love going to the pub with my mates. I love going to cafes and having coffee. And none of that stuff loses its shine at all. It's just a completely different experience fighting. Like fighting is so intense. And a lot of the time after you win, you're not even happy. You're just relieved.
Okay.
It's like a lot of the time it's just a weight off your shoulders. It's like, thank God. Like, thank God I won. Because like you make... everyone in the UFC has win money and show money. There's a couple of guys who just get show money at the top end, or maybe like your legacy guys like Dustin Poirier, and that might just have just one payment that they get. But most of us are on win and show money, and it's half and half. So you make half your money to show up, and then you get another half on top of that if you win, right? So you're going out there and nothing changes before the fight, right? So I still am doing the exact same 10 weeks where I don't do anything else before the fight. I still have all the same bills. I still have all the same lifestyle or anything, but I might make double or I might make half.
Okay.
So you just have this, like there's a lot riding on every fight.
In comedy, you just get paid for the attempt.
Yeah, exactly. Even if you bomb,
bad.
bad luck.
How does your family go watching it?
Our mum doesn't watch.
Yeah.
So when my elder brother had his first fight, she came to the show and sat there, and as soon as Ben walked out, she just started crying. Just couldn't handle it. So, and she was sitting with my cousins, and they're like, he'll be all right, mate. And my cousins love it. And and mum said then, I don't want to go anymore. And then when I started fighting, because my brother fought on the local scene, but he never kind of had the intention to go to the world stage like I did. And then once I started getting a head of steam up and it looked like, I might actually make a career out of it, my mum had a lot of guilt for the fact that she couldn't watch.
Okay.
She'd be like, I'm so sorry. I really want to support you and let you know I do support you. I just don't know if I can watch. I'm like, Mum, fucking relax. I don't want you there. Because it's like, I don't want to be walking out thinking about my mum crying or like that's just more pressure that you don't need. You want people there who are like, good. So Dad comes, my brother is in my corner. My other brother and my sister love it. But Dad just texts Mum, he's good, he won the fight, or no, he didn't, or he won this round, he's going good.
Because I guess your mum's, I'm watching my baby.
Yeah, exactly. I find it really hard to watch people that I care about fight. So like if I'm cornering my teammate, if I'm in his corner, I'm fine because I'm actually in control of some of it. I can give him advice. I can, you're in control. If I'm just in the crowd watching one of my teammates or one of my friends fight, I'm just a wreck because there's no control. You just it's all up to them, and you just have to sit back. It's so hard to watch your friends fight.
Damn, I can't even It's interesting. Like I remember high school fights, watching it. You have this like sick feeling, like nausea. Like I remember, I don't know if I'm affected by it more.
That's exactly how I feel watching my friends fight. Like nauseous. You feel, and I pace. I just pace around. Like, oh.
It's real weird. Like I'd feel it on my face. I remember in year 7 we came out and there were 2 huge Maori dudes in year 10 and they're like bashing like on the, like you could hear like skulls and stuff. And like as like a 12-year-old, you just feel like nauseous.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but I don't have that watching UFC.
No, yeah, because you're desensitized to it a little bit. But maybe the first time you watch, like if you had just walked into a room and seen it on TV, you might get that feeling.
True, yeah.
But you get desensitized.
And that's how people used to perceive it. They're like,
yeah. Well,
cage fighting was banned in Victoria.
Yeah. But you could do MMA. You just had to do it in a ring, which is completely unsafe because people
cage
fall out
adds
of
an
it.
element though.
Yeah, but the cage adds safety for us. So you could, all that time that the cage was banned, you could still do an MMA fight. Exact same rules. You just had to do it in a boxing ring. So people would just get double legged across. Like there was actually a fight. So Kai Kara France was in a fight with the guy from Victoria in a ring. The guy tackled him across the ring. They fell out of the cage and he hit his head. They fell out of the ring, sorry. There was no cage. He hit his head. They had to stop the fight. Right?
Was he all right?
Yeah, he's all right. But it's like that happens. So the cage is just a safety precaution.
Because the cage psychologically, if a politician comes out and is like, we're banning cage fighting, I reckon people tend to just be like, yeah, fuck, we don't want people fighting in cages.
Yeah.
It sounds like gladiatorial.
Yeah, I reckon now if they tried to do that, everyone would just be like, don't be stupid.
Because there's an awareness of the sport.
Yeah, there's awareness now. And that's thanks to guys like McGregor. Like people in that generation above ours that would never have been exposed to it have been now, and they understand that it is a sport and it is, you know, you'd be very surprised. I think you probably wouldn't, but I think a lot of people would be really surprised if they came to like the hotel lobby on fight week and just had a few conversations with fighters, how articulate and intelligent most of them are.
Yeah.
You can't, it's essentially just problem solving. Fighting is just, there's a guy in front of you and he is a puzzle and you have to try and figure him out before he figures you out. So at the lower level, there are a lot of meatheads, but at the very top level, like the UFC, it lends itself to guys who are intelligent and are good at figuring out problems.
The press conferences show that.
For sure. Sometimes.
They're entertaining.
Yeah.
But whatever happens, they're entertaining.
Yeah, no doubt.
There's no one who's like speaking like Tarzan there.
No, not at all.
Which is maybe what people who don't know the sport would think.
Exactly.
It's like meatheads bashing each other.
People say that to me all the time. And obviously I'm, you know, I love my horse racing. So I'm kind of getting more and more involved in that world. And that's obviously an older crowd a little bit.
True.
And a little bit more, you would say, probably affluent.
Yes.
Crowd as well. And
you think of them wearing those big, like the bowler hats.
Yeah. And I did a speaking event and I got introduced and I spoke, and then afterwards this group of ladies came up to me, and there's probably 5 of them, and they would have been 60, 65. And they said, when they said there was going to be a UFC fighter, we thought, we don't want to hear him speak. Like, we're not interested. But after everyone spoke, you were our favorite. And it was like, that people have this perception of you that you're going to be a meathead.
Wonder what they think you were going to say.
Yeah, I know. That's what
kick over the lectern.
You just have people just have their own, you know, perceptions and opinions, and it's very far from the truth with most fighters, I think.
Damn, Jack, I'm excited to see the fight.
Me
I
too.
feel I'm invested in it now as well.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
Thanks so much for coming on the podcast. Appreciate it. And yeah, when you're walking into the octagon, fuck.
Yeah, it'll be good.
Mum will be at home.
I'm going to be thinking about that Perth guy that jumped.
I think about him most days.
Yeah.
All right, Jack Jenkins, thanks so much for coming on. And when is it? UFC?
UFC 305, August 18.